Mrs. Bates.
Did you know that one of Alfred Hitchcock's former muses was cast aside simply because she got pregnant? She was the beauty personally chosen by Hitchcock to succeed Grace Kelly, his legendary icon. But just as her career was about to explode, Vera Miles took a different turn. She turned down the leading role in Vertigo, choosing motherhood over becoming Hollywood's next sex symbol. And here's the stranger part. Vera Miles was married 4 times, and 3 of her ex-husbands, all famous, strapping men, died within less than a year of each other. A chilling coincidence or a hint from fate? Vera didn't chase the spotlight, nor did she trade her identity to please any director. She chose another path, quiet, resolute, and at times, forgotten. But it was in that silence that Vera Miles left an indelible mark. Through her talent, her choices, and the losses she endured that few ever knew about. This story won't just surprise you, it will make you see an entire era of Hollywood in a completely different light. Let's dive into the defining choices of Vera Miles. Vera June Ralston, born on August 23, 1929, in Boise City, Oklahoma, was the youngest of 4 siblings in a working-class family. At a young age, she and her family moved to Pratt, then Wichita, Kansas, a place where life was anything but easy. There were no shortcuts, no one to give her a leg up. Everything Vera had, she had to earn herself. By day, she worked at the YMCA cafeteria. By night, she typed telegrams for Western Union. All the while, she kept up with her studies and graduated from Wichita North High School in 1947. At just 18, Vera already understood the weight of making a living. A quiet resilience that would later become her secret weapon in the unforgiving world of Hollywood. Her delicate beauty and poised confidence led her to an unexpected turning point. In 1948, she was crowned Miss Kansas and went on to place as 3rd runner-up in the nationwide Miss America competition. She had no team behind her, no formal training, just a girl from Kansas, and sheer inner strength. To many, it was a surprise win, but to Vera, it was her first chance to step onto a bigger stage. Unlike many pageant winners who dream of breaking into showbiz at all costs, Vera kept her feet firmly on the ground. She didn't compromise, didn't take shortcuts. The years spent waiting tables and working night shifts had taught her how to read people, and more importantly, how to hold on to herself when everything around her turned glamorous. It was from that humble beginning that Vera Miles shaped a clear philosophy. You don't need to be loud to be remembered, and no one gets to decide your future, not even Alfred Hitchcock. In 1950, Vera left Kansas for Los Angeles, bringing with her the decision to change her name from Vera Ralston to Vera Miles, taking the surname of her first husband, since Hollywood already had another actress named Vera Ralston. It was her first strategic move, creating her own identity right from the moment she stepped into the heart of the film industry. But her path to Hollywood didn't begin on a movie set. After winning the title of Miss Kansas and becoming 3rd runner-up in the 1948 Miss America pageant, Vera was invited to work as a photo model for commercial advertising campaigns. While working with photographers, she learned how to pose, express emotion, and interact with lighting and the camera, skills that quickly caught the attention of film studios. Her first opportunities came in the form of silent bit parts. But just 2 years later, Vera landed her first speaking role in The Rose Bowl Story, 1952, a lighthearted sports film that was enough to put her on the radar of major filmmakers. Warner Brothers soon took an interest in Vera. Under their banner, she appeared in Tarzan's Hidden Jungle, 1955, where she met her second husband, the muscular actor Gordon Scott, followed by The Searchers, 1956, directed by John Ford and starring John Wayne. Though not the lead, her presence in that classic Western elevated her status to that of a truly promising actress. The biggest turning point came when Alfred Hitchcock cast her as the fragile wife in The Wrong Man, 1956, opposite Henry Fonda. No longer just a blonde beauty, Vera delivered a convincing portrayal of emotional depth and inner collapse. This was the role that officially caught Hitchcock's eye and opened an entirely new chapter in her career, becoming the chosen muse to succeed Grace Kelly. After The Wrong Man, 1956, Alfred Hitchcock didn't just see potential in Vera Miles, he placed a bet on her. A 5-year personal contract was signed shortly thereafter, with the intention of making her the next Grace Kelly in Hitchcock's cinematic universe. Instead of auditioning, Vera was given a custom-built character, Judy Barton in Vertigo, 1958, the leading role in what was then Hitchcock's most ambitious project. Vertigo was originally designed specifically for Vera Miles, a starring role meant to catapult her to stardom as Grace Kelly's successor. But just as the film was about to begin production, Vera unexpectedly announced she was pregnant. Hitchcock was visibly disappointed and had no choice but to replace her with Kim Novak, an actress he had never truly trusted. This sudden change instantly turned the relationship between Hitchcock and Vera into prime media fodder. The press at the time began spinning tales of a stubborn actress who ruined Hitchcock's plans. They labeled Vera the woman who threw away her shot at fame, and many articles implied that Hitchcock's disappointment led to her being quietly sidelined from major roles, an unspoken punishment no one dared name outright. They also placed Kim Novak in a difficult position, branding her the replacement and continually comparing the two women, even though Vera and Novak had no personal conflict. In reality, Vera never once attacked Hitchcock. Years later, when biographies began painting their relationship as a silent feud, she firmly denied it, saying, "I was very fond of him." Vera's silence over the years only made it easier for the media to dramatize the story. And with no one stepping up to defend her, public opinion simply accepted the narrative that Vera had thrown it all away, that her stalled career was her own doing. Despite missing out on Vertigo, Vera continued working with Hitchcock. Just 2 years later, she was cast as Lila Crane in Psycho, 1960, a supporting role on paper, but the backbone of the entire plot. No screaming, no on-screen death. Lila was a decisive, rational woman who pursued the truth to the very end. The scene where she discovers Norman Bates's mother's corpse became one of the most chilling moments in cinematic history. Over 2 decades later, Vera returned in Psycho 2, 1983, reprising her role as Lila Crane, now haunted and hollow. She was one of only 3 actors to appear in both films, alongside Anthony Perkins and Virginia Gregg, a rare continuity in classic horror cinema. Being invited back after 23 years wasn't a courtesy. It was proof that her role couldn't be replaced. Vera's success wasn't confined to Hitchcock's world. She was also chosen by director John Ford for 2 classic westerns, The Searchers, 1956, and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, 1962, acting alongside John Wayne and James Stewart. For Ford, notoriously hard to please, that was a statement of respect. Even director Robert Aldrich, who had to cut her role in Twilight's Last Gleaming, 1977, for runtime reasons, publicly praised her performance as too good to cut. Never boxed in as a typical blonde lead, Vera proved her versatility by taking on a range of genres, from westerns, war films, and psychological dramas to television. She appeared regularly in Columbo, Fantasy Island, Hawaii Five-0, The Love Boat, Murder, She Wrote, and many other iconic series. In an industry that often discards women after 40, Vera stayed in the game for over 3 decades, on talent and professionalism alone. Her career left behind 3 undeniable marks. First, The Searchers, Psycho, and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance were all selected by the U.S. National Film Registry for preservation due to their cultural and historical significance. Second, her portrayal of Lila Crane became a rare, enduring symbol in horror film history. And finally, in 1960, just as she was reaching her peak, Vera Miles was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. A recognition not for the lucky, but for those resilient enough, distinct enough, and wise enough not to be forgotten. Behind the image of a composed, resilient star on screen, Vera Miles's personal life was a long sequence of relationships filled with hope, yet most ending in quiet separation. She married 4 times, each marriage its own chapter, carrying joy, challenges, and the kind of loss that leaves one reflective. Her first marriage came early. In 1948, at just 19, Vera married Bob Miles, a stuntman and bit-part actor working on Hollywood sets. Together, they had 2 daughters, Deborah and Kelly. This was when Vera was still a newcomer, bouncing between background roles, barely making ends meet between auditions. Bob wasn't famous, but he was a steady anchor during those rough early years in Los Angeles. However, as Vera began catching the attention of studios and stepped gradually into Hollywood's limelight, the distance between them grew. They faced the pressures of family and diverging career paths. In 1954, Vera officially filed for divorce at the Los Angeles Superior Court, citing irreconcilable differences, as reported by the Los Angeles Times on April 10, 1954. She requested full custody of the children and sought no financial support from Bob Miles, a bold move for a single mother at a time when her acting career was still uncertain. The separation was quiet, without scandal. But it marked the beginning of a new phase. Vera was now shaping her own destiny, no longer the wife behind a husband's career, but a woman stepping into her own opportunity. Her second marriage had the feel of a Hollywood fairy tale, at least in the beginning. In 1955, while filming Tarzan's Hidden Jungle, Vera met co-star Gordon Scott, a dashing bodybuilder cast as Tarzan, with his muscular physique and charismatic presence. They quickly fell in love, and by June 1956, the couple quietly wed in Las Vegas, according to the San Francisco Examiner. It was a discreet ceremony, reflecting the striking contrast between the elegant, reserved Vera and the exuberant, athletic Gordon, a duo the press once hailed as Hollywood's ideal couple. They had a son named Michael, but like many romances born on a film set, theirs couldn't withstand the realities of life. Gordon rose as an action star with a packed schedule, while Vera delved deeper into psychological dramas with Hitchcock and John Ford. 2 careers, 2 separate rhythms. The gap between them only widened. In early 1960, Vera filed for divorce in a Los Angeles court, once again citing irreconcilable differences, confirmed by the Los Angeles Times on March 5, 1960. She requested custody of their son and made no mention of financial support, once again underscoring her fierce independence. The separation unfolded quietly. No scandal, no public feuding. Even so, Vera always strove to maintain a stable environment for her son. She never spoke ill of or criticized Gordon after the breakup, a gesture that reflected respect for the past, even if it hadn't led to a lasting ending. Her third marriage, to director and actor Keith Larson, was her longest, lasting 11 years, from 1960 to 1971. According to the Los Angeles Times on July 8, 1960, Vera and Keith were officially married in Los Angeles just a few months after her divorce from Gordon Scott. It was Vera's third marriage and Keith's second, both entering the relationship after previous heartbreaks, hoping to find something more enduring. The marriage was discreet, without a lavish ceremony, consistent with Vera Miles's composed, understated style. At the time, the press described them as a well-matched, mature, and hopeful couple. The woman once handpicked by Hitchcock, and a thoughtful, if not flashy, actor-director. They had one son together, Eric Larson, and largely lived their lives outside of the limelight. This was also the period when Vera began stepping back from leading film roles to focus more on television and family. She remained a steady presence on the small screen in various acclaimed series, but rarely engaged with the media. Beneath the calm surface, however, pressure still existed. Despite lasting longer than her previous marriages, this union too could not withstand their quiet differences. In 1971, Vera and Keith officially divorced. No explanation was given, no public argument, just another quiet exit from Vera. The press speculated on parenting disagreements or career distance, but she remained true to her lifelong approach, silent, discreet, never airing personal matters. Can love still be believed in after 3 failed marriages? Vera Miles walked away from each without complaint, without confession. Then, in early April 1973, a new name appeared. Robert Jones, a television director, less famous than her previous husbands, but seemingly the man Vera chose for one final try. The Los Angeles Times confirmed their wedding took place in a private ceremony in California. No celebrity guests, no paparazzi, no speeches from a bride well acquainted with the gaze of the public. That 4th marriage lasted less than 2 years. In 1975, they quietly separated, just as quietly as they had come together. No reasons were made public, no questions asked, and Vera, as always, stayed silent. Across 4 marriages, she never gave a single interview about her love life. No memoir, no talk show appearances revealing the truth behind the glamour. She let those relationships pass without ever pulling them into the spotlight, a rare, even perplexing attitude in a Hollywood world where every wound is often retold for more views. But there's something deeply thought-provoking here. Not the repeated word divorce in her legal records, but the way one woman chose to experience marriage as a series of life experiments. And if it didn't work, she walked away. Quietly. Without drama, without clinging. 4 men, 4 different types. A stuntman, a Tarzan, a Western director, a television filmmaker. None held her for long, yet none were turned into punchlines or stories of grievance. And in the end, when all 3 of her first husbands passed away within a few months between 2006 and 2007, Vera Miles said nothing. No shared memories, no public mourning, no tribute article. That silence, to her admirers, spoke of grace and dignity. But to others it may have seemed cold or withdrawn to the point of being extreme. What do you think of Vera Miles's 4 marriages? Were they a series of failures or a reflection of a woman too strong to remain bound to something that no longer fit? In a Hollywood world where divorces are as common as role changes, could her silence have been her final form of self-protection? Share your perspective. Whether in empathy or disagreement, every view is worth discussing, and just when the wounds seemed long healed, a final, piercing chapter suddenly opened in the quiet life of Vera Miles. From late 2006 to mid-2007, in less than 5 months, all 3 of her former husbands, Keith Larson, Bob Miles, and Gordon Scott, passed away one after another. Keith Larson, her longest-lasting partner, was the first to go on December 13, 2006, as confirmed by the Los Angeles Times. He had been a director and actor and the father of her only son from their marriage. Just 4 months later, Bob Miles, her first husband, the father of her 2 daughters, died on April 12, 2007. And as if written by some cruel fate, only 18 days after that, Gordon Scott, the dashing Tarzan and Vera's second husband, also passed away on April 30, 2007, widely reported by The Guardian and Variety. 3 men, 3 different eras, 3 separate memories, each deeply intertwined with Vera at very different points in her life, now all gone within less than half a year. The media described it as a tragic closing chapter for these long-sleeping Hollywood romances. But Vera Miles, true to the path she had always chosen, remained silent. No tribute, no public statement, no appearance, as if she refused to allow these private losses to be dragged once more under the lights of public scrutiny. The press then called it the silent tragedy of Vera Miles. She made no comment, no public show of grief, no gestures for the cameras. But her most devoted fans understood. For a woman who had endured so much change, these losses could never be just a part of her past. Vera Miles was never a breakout star, but she was a standard of clarity, quiet strength, and resilience. In a Hollywood long dominated by powerful directors, suffocating beauty standards, and deeply entrenched gender bias. Her greatest legacy doesn't lie in the number of roles she played, but in the way she chose to live and work. Turning down the lead in Vertigo to have a child, at a time when Alfred Hitchcock had pinned all his hopes on her becoming the next Grace Kelly, was a defining moment. In an era when pregnancy could be seen as betraying one's career, Vera Miles put family and motherhood above fame. That wasn't just a humane decision, it was a courageous act ahead of its time. Not everyone understood or acknowledged that at the time. But it was that very choice that helped her forge an independent identity, distinct from her peers. She didn't cater to the camera, didn't manufacture scandal to stay relevant, didn't cling to the spotlight. She chose quality over quantity, dignity over compromise. And that's what made Vera Miles a model for future generations of performers, especially women who aspired to work with integrity. Her impact didn't come from noise, but from a way of living and working that required no spectacle. Roger Ebert, in his Great Movies essay on Psycho, described Vera's performance as the true depth of clarity and intuition, the very force that keeps Lila Crane alive on screen to this day. In the film Hitchcock, 2012, actress Jessica Biel, who portrayed Vera, met with her grandson to learn more about her. What struck her wasn't the filmography, but Vera's ability to preserve her dignity in an industry that never stops watching. Today, when actresses like Cate Blanchett insist on only taking roles they truly believe in, the quiet shadow of Vera Miles lingers, a pioneer of discernment, of doing art with decency. Blanchett has turned down major projects simply because she felt they had nothing to say. That level-headedness, that courage, it's the kind of influence Vera Miles planted decades ago, even if no one ever put her name to it. And still, the question remains, if Vera Miles hadn't become pregnant in 1957, would she have become another Grace Kelly with the crown of stardom in hand? But each person chooses their own fate. At this point, there's no longer a matter of right or wrong, only choices and their consequences. In 1995, Vera Miles quietly said goodbye to Hollywood. Separate Lives, the film she starred in alongside James Belushi, marked her final appearance before the public. No press conference, no farewell speech, not even a backward glance. After more than 45 years of dedication, she stepped away completely, as if the spotlight had never truly held her in the first place. Today, Vera lives in Palm Desert, California, far removed from stages, reporters, and public curiosity. She grants no interviews, attends no tributes, and doesn't return for any film-related events, not even milestone celebrations for Psycho or The Searchers. According to director Ted Gogigan, she still replies to fan letters, a quiet but kind way of staying connected. No one stays young forever, but she remains a queen in the hearts of her audience. Not just for once being crowned Miss Kansas, but for the grace, composure, and unwavering principles she upheld throughout her life. Now picture Vera Miles, at age 95, living in a sun-drenched desert home. Does she still remember the sound of Hitchcock knocking at her door? Does she ever flip through old behind-the-scenes photos? Or perhaps she's simply spending her final years exactly the way she always intended, without noise, without regret, and with nothing left to prove to the world. Vera Miles wasn't dazzling, but she was unyielding. She didn't flaunt or shout. She lived and withdrew on her own terms, with pride, with control. In a Hollywood that demanded obedience, she chose motherhood over being a forever muse. She chose silence over spectacle, and in that very choice, she left behind a quiet legacy, one that cannot be forgotten. If you were Vera Miles, would you choose the spotlight or peace? Share your thoughts below. And if you believe this story deserved to be told, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel so we can keep the spirit of people like Vera Miles alive.